Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd Pianin, with over $2 billion in funded loans.
What's going on, San Diego? We are back with you, and as always, it's just awesome to be back on Real Estate Exposed. I'm Daniel Beer at Windermere, the Daniel Beer Group, and our co-host, Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. How are you doing? You staying dry?
Staying dry because we have this wonderful new person working at the front desk at the office who surprised me, and Joe actually yesterday, who's in studio here as well, and we'll introduce Joe in a moment, but surprised us both with umbrellas yesterday. She's awesome. Big shout out to Melissa. Thank you so much for keeping us dry. And
that was super nice of her. She actually walked out to your car and
No, but she had them ready for us right at the door.
Were they Fidelity National Title umbrellas?
No.
Oh.
But we have Joe McShane in office as well, one of the newest members of the Daniel Beer Group. Joe is our listing services specialist. He comes from a deep background in real estate, has managed hundreds of properties, and it's just awesome to have Joe here in office. What's going on, Joe?
Not a whole lot. It's really good to be here. And side note, I was in charge of making sure Dan stayed dry. So those umbrellas that Melissa put out were very helpful.
Oh, very nice.
I didn't want to throw Joe under the bus and admit that I did, of course, have him run out to the car, grab a few things I, of course, forgot in the car, go pick them up, and
thank God for Melissa with the umbrellas.
I pretended to be very busy working, so I asked Joe to run out.
Nice.
So thanks, Joe, for that.
Well, welcome to the team, Joe.
Yeah, good to be here.
Super excited.
Well, it's the new year. This is Real Estate Exposed. We're always talking about bettering your position, not just with your real estate investments, but in life, with your, keeping your financial house in order. And because, all of us, the New Year resolution is just it's just something that people typically are focusing on at this time of year. We're no different. They're important so long as you keep them. Todd, what are you doing? What are you focused on as far as moving yourself forward in your life forward, your business forward this year?
Well, personal, Dan, I mean, you know that I lost a little bit of weight last year.
A little bit is an understatement.
Yes, it's an understatement. So my goal
was that nice of me to say or rude?
That was nice of you to say.
Okay, just checking.
So as you know, I lost a little bit of weight last year. And so my goal is actually to get into shape, actually to tone it up and get into shape and try to hit the gym a couple times a week. And, right in our neighborhood, Pacific Highlands Ranch, by us, I joined Crunch. So I'm going to start going there 3 or 4 days a week.
That's actually awesome. That's awesome.
So want to keep those LBs off.
Good for you. What about you, Joe? What are you doing?
My New Year's
and we're going to keep you accountable to this, by the way.
Yeah, I would hope so. Somebody's going to have to do it.
Are you going to keep me accountable too?
We're keeping you accountable. We're keeping Joe, and and for you listening, you need to share your resolution, not just with the people closest to you, but share it with the more you share it, the more public you make it, the more tied to it and accountable you become. And that's really one of the keys, and not just keeping a New Year's resolution, but any kind of goal. Make it public. Joe, what's yours?
Mine is to give more. I think that every opportunity and every day you have an opportunity to give something, whether it's your time, you might be able to give some financial help. Maybe it's just listening to somebody, but you have an opportunity to give something to someone every day and impact their life.
That's awesome. I like that one.
Very cool.
What about you, Dan?
Well, mine is, I'm always reading and educating myself, and
thirst for learning.
There is a true thirst for learning, and it does become difficult though balancing that with home, with work, and so on. But my resolution is, aside from any audiobooks, is to actually physically read 2 books every month. And what I like to do when I read a book, and it's been a very effective tool, I recommend it, is aside from underlining in pen as I'm reading, then I reread the book, just everything I underlined.
That's cool.
Right? So you read the book, underline as you go, and then go back, read it again, and read out everything you've underlined.
So what are the 2 books you're reading this month? Because we're going to hold you accountable, so that means once a month I'm going to ask you what 2 books you're reading.
This month it's going to be a book called Rocket Fuel, and then another book called The Great Game of Business.
Nice.
So this is Real Estate Exposed. You're listening to News Radio 600 KOGO. Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin, and there are also real estate resolutions that we need to make, and we want to encourage you to make this year. So what we're going to talk about and go through here in the rest of this segment and possibly into the next are what are the most important New Year's resolutions, real estate related, that you and anybody you know should be making into this new year. It's an opportunistic market. There are unique market conditions that don't typically show up together. How can we take advantage of them? And so here are the New Year's resolutions.
Before you talk about that, though, the market conditions and everything that we're talking about, and it's a unique time in our history, right? Mm-hmm. I think that you should probably tell people we got coming up.
Well, we do have our home selling workshops are coming up, where we go into the exact detail that allows you to walk out with a bona fide plan for the sale of your home that frankly will have you understanding and knowing and with a better, more sound strategy than the average agent could ever share with you. And the reason for that, and I share this with you only to qualify what I've just said, not from a bragging perspective, because it's not about us and the workshops. They're not about us at all. It's about information and education, helping you. If you're thinking about selling your home, this is information you're going to want to use. The average agent out there will sell about 3.7 homes a year. Okay, that's about what they will have sold in 2015. The plan and process, step-by-step material that you're going to walk away from at the workshops, they are the actual plan that I personally implement into my business. And last year we sold 119 homes. So it'd take the average agent over 30 years to match the result. So if you're thinking about selling your home, and maybe you've already experienced the pain of an expired listing, so you know what it's like to not get to where you want to be, and you need a different plan, you need a different process and approach that's more strategic, that's smarter than the methods used by traditional agents, get free tickets to our workshops. They're coming up on February 16th, 17th, and 18th.
All across the county.
Yep, that's the best part because they're all over the county. They're at different times of day.
Twice a day.
Lunchtime and after work. Right. There's going to be one that's good for you. And for Real Estate Exposed listeners, if you use the promo code LION when you call in, you can qualify for a free home staging package. Give us a phone call. Get your free tickets. The number's 800-676-2420. That number's 800-676-2420. Now, jumping into
New Year's resolutions for real estate. So what are some New Year's resolutions for real estate, Dan, that you...
The first one?
Yep.
Decide what you want.
Meaning?
Everybody, people are out there always looking, and we see it. We constantly see it. People come across on our website or they fill out a form and...
Website, SanDiegoHomefinder.com.
But they'd say, I'm looking, or what are you looking for?
Right.
Look, the point is if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to know when you get there.
So what you're saying is know how many bedrooms you want or what area you want to live in or what you're looking,
Decide what you want on every level. What do you want out of your money? What do you want out of your, is it an investment property? Is investment the primary purpose of the purchase?
Which we talked about last week.
Or is it that you want your family in a comfortable space? What's the primary need? Is your primary need a certain amount of size or a certain location? What do you want?
School district.
You need to understand what you want. Otherwise, you're not going to find it. So first, let's map out a plan. You should be reaching out to a professional, getting a blueprint together to be able to map that out. So that's number one.
So what's number two?
You have to get your financial house in order.
Meaning what?
You have to get your finances, your FICOs, you have a credit check. You need to have your financial house in order, have a savings plan, understand exactly what that roadmap financially looks like to be able to accomplish the goal you desire that you just established in resolution number one. Todd, you as the lender, or as a lender, you're instrumental in that. What do you see as the typical mistakes people make when they don't have their financial house in order?
They tend to meet with realtors and start looking at properties that either they can't afford or that someone's told them misinformation. So, what we always like to say, and Brian Danny, who's on your team, when he meets with them, when he meets with someone who wants to buy a home, he makes sure they talk to us first, so that way we can at least talk to them, make sure that they're not overbuying, underbuying, making sure there's no credit issues, because we can run their credit report, we can talk about those things, and we just make sure that they're not trying to overreach. We've had a couple instances recently where clients were promised loans, and I think this has even happened in a couple transactions with you and I, Dan. There are promised loans through other lenders that they couldn't perform on, and we've had to come through and be kind of like a rescuer at the end of the deal.
Yeah, and thank God for that. So one of the biggest things that I see people making a mistake on is they believe the mortgage process begins after you have an accepted offer.
Right.
And when the mortgage process really begins when, Todd?
It should begin before you even get in the car to look at houses.
That's really what getting your financial house in order means.
Yeah.
I'll share a personal story with you. I've always had absolutely pristine, perfect FICOs. Okay,
which is his credit. Which is credit. FICO is a terminology.
My credit.
His credit.
My credit score has always been perfect, frankly. Okay, it's always been 790, 810. It's always been premium A+ credit. Recently, I a number of months back actually, because I'm still just fixing this now.
Right.
This was about in August, I start getting interested in looking at a loan for a potential investment property, only to find out that I have something like a $300 collection on my credit report that has knocked my credit down from 800 something to the lower 700s or high 600s. I don't remember exactly where it was, that disqualified me from being able to get a loan based on a $300 medical bill of some sort that I never knew a thing about, didn't know it existed, didn't know it was, just had no idea.
Right.
So getting my financial house in order has been a process of cleaning that up. Of course, I paid it immediately the moment I found out about it. That made my credit score jump some, and now I'm working with somebody that you've actually referred me to.
He's been on the show, Eric Kaplan,
who's now helping remove that from the report altogether. But that's an example of getting your financial house in order. Sometimes it's going to be something you're not even remotely aware of, like it was in my case.
Right.
And you're listening to Real Estate Exposed. We're on News Radio 600 KOGO here. Coming up next, we're going to jump into more of the New Year's resolutions you need to make real estate related to move yourself forward and take best advantage of 2016. I'm Daniel Beer, Todd Pianin,
Joe McShane,
and this is Real Estate Exposed. We're back with you. It's Real Estate Exposed. News Radio 600 KOGO. I'm Daniel Beer, the Daniel Beer Group. What's going on, Todd?
Not much, my brother. Trying to stay dry. Todd
Pianin of Home Street Bank is trying to stay dry. And we have Joe McShane of the Daniel Beer Group, our listing services specialist. What's going on, Joe?
I'm just trying to stay dry as well as Todd.
Okay. We're going to move the show along from all the dry
Hey, man. It's been a wet week. It has been a wet week.
And it's going to be a wet winter.
But it's also the first work week of 2016.
Correct.
And we've just come out of it, and so we want to make sure that you have New Year's resolutions for your real estate purchase or sale. Here are the resolutions. If you're thinking about being in the market in 2016, here are the resolutions you need to live by in order to maximize and make the most out of the market conditions and opportunity presented to us today. Again, you are listening to Real Estate Exposed with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. So, we got through our first three resolutions in the last segment. The next one, and this one, I think is critical.
You love this one.
You need to demand more out of the process, okay? Demand more. That's your resolution. What does it mean? It means that you're not going to just cut yourself short by Googling interest rates and then contacting some lender on some form and online somewhere and getting strung along some process.
Or driving down the street and calling the agent that has the sign in your neighborhood.
And thinking that person, talking about that very quickly. You want to demand more? How about you demand somebody actually represent you?
Right.
Okay. Yesterday, I signed a listing agreement with a seller. If a buyer calls me and expects they're going to get the very best directly out of calling me as the listing agent, well, guess what? I actually signed an agreement that's called an agency agreement.
Right.
That established a fiduciary responsibility between me and the seller.
Right.
And it's amusing that buyers, look, I don't mean to poke fun at it, but if you just think about it logically, it's exactly like hiring it's like being in a lawsuit and hiring the opposition's attorney. You have the listing agent has a relationship and a fiduciary responsibility, a legal fiduciary responsibility to the seller.
Right.
And then somebody thinks they're going to, call every sign in town, and that's going to be the best way they're going to get a deal because they're going direct to the listing agent.
Well, it's a misconception, right?
It's a total misconception. And even as a listing agent, I'm telling you, you're serving yourself wrong. You need to demand more. You need to demand what the seller demanded. The seller demanded that somebody work for them, that somebody be dedicated to finding the market for their property and delivering the best and highest value. You as the buyer floating from sign to sign to sign, or Zillow inquiry to Zillow inquiry.
I have to tell you, Dan, this is one of the most uncomfortable spots I've ever, I get into as a lender, is when the listing agent also represents the buyer. Because you're in a situation where your client, the realtor who referred you the deal obviously is a client, but then also the client who's now buying the home is also a client, and it can put you in a pickle.
It's you need to demand that somebody work for you with your interest, and so that's an example of demanding more. Here's another one: you're going to sell your house. You might want to demand more than somebody using a cell phone to shoot some pictures on a cell phone, slapping the property online, and then waiting around for buyers to call. You need to actually have a proven plan and process in place that has been shown time and time again to produce results. That's what it's about at the end of the day, is results, and that leads us into our next resolution.
Well, before we go to the next resolution, did you read that article that talked about the number one camera that's being used to take photos for the MLS?
I love it. Right?
Is your favorite camera the iPhone camera?
It's the most popular real estate camera, unbelievably.
Well, before we jump into that, a question that I have for you guys that you can maybe share with the audience is: you say demand more. Let's tell our audience, what does it look like when you don't demand more, in your guys' experience in the industry, so that they can have a tangible example that they can relate to.
On my side, demanding more is that you make sure that you've got somebody who responds to you, right? A lot of the big banks, these people are just given sort of a list of things they can sell, and because they're a big bank, they don't call people back on the weekends, the evenings. People are sitting around their kitchen table talking about their financing options. I meet with everybody. We try to meet with everybody personally, me and my team. And as well as I'm available till midnight every night on email, back and forth. So that way, somebody has a question, somebody has a problem, we're able to respond really quickly. And so we offer a higher level of service. So that's our side of demanding more. That's what we deliver, is a higher level of service.
That's right. And on our end, it's amazing what people agree to. Home sellers so often cut themselves short of any kind of actual strategy. They even don't demand that they have somebody that has a big proven track record. When I said that was going to lead us into our next resolution, how about you demand proof? Is the person really, they say they're the neighborhood expert. Is that because they sold 2 homes or 1 or 35?
But what makes them a neighborhood expert is the big question.
And that's the biggest thing is let's bust that myth.
Right.
There is no plan out there. There is no secret method that works in your neighborhood and doesn't work in any other neighborhood. There's not the secret way to sell a house on your street. There's also, if you were to identify an agent that has a plan and process in place that's been proven to sell tons more properties successfully, quickly, and at top dollar versus the average agent.
Right.
And they've done that in all kinds of diverse neighborhoods all over the county. I promise you, that's not a plan that works everywhere except for your neighborhood. Demand more, demand a professional, and you're going to see what getting the right result feels like and looks like. It's something that you owe to yourself to do. Demand more.
Joe, you will find out that people don't actually demand a lot. They just expect we're going to list your home and boom, it hits the market. And you go to the home seller seminar, which we're going to talk about after the break.
Yeah, and if you want tickets to that home selling workshop, the number is 800-676-2420. It's coming up in February, the 16th, 17th, and 18th of February. We're offering it 6 times, different times and locations around the county. This is where we just spill the beans on exactly what you need to know to sell a home successfully today in this particular market. The number for those free tickets is 888-676-2420. You're listening to Real Estate Exposed with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. Hey, we're back with you. Real Estate Exposed right here on News Radio 600 KOGO. Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. We've been talking about the home selling workshops that are coming up in February, and we're going to be giving out a number for free tickets here shortly. We've been discussing the real estate New Year's resolutions that you need to implement in 2016. But there's also some changes to the environment that are coming here in the upcoming months.
Yeah, I mean, before we get back into the New Year's resolutions, I'd like to talk to both of you guys because, you know, you're both in the listing area of, you know, both you and Joe about listing area of listing the homes. And I think that people are concerned that they're not going to get a lot of activity if they list their house right now because with all these storms coming down in San Diego, I mean, are you seeing traffic slow down? Are you seeing, I mean, Dan, you run your group, so you also know what's going on the buyer's side. Are people not saying they want to go out and look at homes because it's raining outside? I mean, what's really going on? People's
kids haven't stopped growing up. People haven't stopped retiring. People haven't stopped getting divorced or married or having children. People haven't stopped passing away. People's lives are still on. This is still San Diego. It's still Southern California. Frankly, because I know that buyer demand is ever so present.
Right.
I hope that other sellers out there who we're not representing use El Nino as an excuse to delay going to market.
So even less inventory.
Creating less competition for our smart sellers that are going to take advantage of that environment. I hope that happens. You know, looking out for the best interests of my clients, that's what I'm looking forward to. But I mean, back in July, we actually had a very odd, huge rainstorm.
Right.
Huge rainstorm. There's a community, a small little community in San Diego, just north of the 56, called Santa Monica, where a home hadn't been sold all year. We brought a home on the market there, implemented our 5-day blitz strategy, and we had 2 offers, sold $1,000 over the asking price at the highest price per square foot paid in that neighborhood in over 6 years. There was a torrential downpour during the event. Okay? I don't see there being a major impact on demand, but I do believe we're going to see it help decrease supply.
Got it.
And that's something that we're going to take full advantage of, and anybody working with us, we're going to help position them to take advantage of it.
And what about on the buyer side? I mean, what are you hearing from your buyer specialists?
Not much, and that's what I'm saying. Is it's not something the buyers are concerned with or talking about. It's something the sellers are talking about. And frankly, you know, Joe, you know, there's ways for people to take advantage of El Nino and actually turn it into a financial gain.
Absolutely. One, to touch on the question that Todd asked, demand doesn't change based upon the conditions. You know, I've heard it on the listing side as well that people are concerned. You know, we were in a home yesterday and it was like, is this weather going to affect what I'm doing? And it doesn't change the demand. If your refrigerator's empty and you have no food and you need to make dinner, you have to go to the grocery store. If you want a home and it's raining out, you're still going to go look at homes.
Right.
And something in my experience managing, you know, millions of dollars in investment portfolios, something that I always instructed all of my employees to do and something that I'm instructing you to do is monitor the weather. Turn off your irrigation systems before and after a big storm. I save thousands of dollars at larger properties, at beautiful investment homes all throughout the San Diego County area, but little by little it adds up. If you just pay attention to the weather and just do a little bit of looking into what time do your sprinklers go off, how does your drip operate?
That's brilliant. I mean, for our listeners out there, that's a brilliant thing. I mean, there's, you know, our water bills have been rising, Dan and Joe, and this is it's a great little tip. I mean, something to think about. I mean, we should be turning off our sprinklers right now, right?
You absolutely should. You absolutely should.
Especially in the middle of the drought. So, I mean, wow.
This is just going to be another case of where the crowds are typically wrong, right? Like I just got done watching The Big Short with my wife.
How was that?
Awesome movie.
Fantastic.
We really enjoyed it. And it was amazing to actually experience the movie in the theater with everybody rather than having seen it at home. I'm glad I did that. And you wouldn't think that about a financial, you know, a movie about finance, basically,
right.
About banking.
Right.
The reason it was really cool to watch it at the theater with everybody is that everybody in that theater, I'm getting chills as I say this, we all went through it.
Yeah.
We all were there. We all didn't see it, or if we think we saw it, if we're honest with ourselves, we weren't as honest as we should have been. We didn't see it as clearly as it was there. I mean, all you had to do was open your eyes.
Right.
It's an amazing thing. So just experiencing that with everybody, it was very, very cool. But of course, the crowd was wrong. The crowd during the tech bubble in 2000 was wrong. The crowds when in 2009 and 2010, when real estate values were depressed, where the job market was depressed, where everything was depressed, and everybody thought, oh, it's never coming back. They were wrong. And so typically following the crowd doesn't put you in the most, it just doesn't give you the biggest advantage or strategic position over, that you could potentially look to gain from.
That's how you've grown your business, though. Like, we always call you the great disruptor of the real estate market, Dan, because you always don't follow the crowd. You do things differently, again, which is why we do these home selling workshops, because you need to talk about that for a second, Dan. Talk about, the home selling workshop.
We'll tease out the number here very quickly, and it's 800-676-2420. That's the number for free tickets to the workshops. I'm going to talk about them more in just a moment, okay? But that free number for free tickets is 800-676-2420. Todd and I are there in person presenting a proven strategic process that, frankly, is just a lot smarter than the methods used by traditional agents. It's a process that will use the buyer psychology in your favor as a seller to produce an advantage, a negotiating advantage. The way we get there is really cool. But to wrap up the thought here, not following the crowd, if you don't become one of these, potential sellers that's going to delay your plans, your family plans, your investment plans based on a rain cloud, you're going to be there to gain, because let other people delay, you go on the market and take advantage. So that's a resolution.
That's a great
resolution for 2016 is do not blindly follow the crowd. There are certain things crowds do right, but you can't follow it if you don't understand a very clear reason and the fundamentals behind it.
And Dan doesn't follow the crowd, because I'll ask one question to Dan, and we'll all understand how Dan doesn't follow the crowd.
Oh boy, what's this?
So Dan, have you seen Star Wars: Force Awakens?
Absolutely not.
So there you go. What about you, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Joe and I follow the crowd, and Dan does not follow the crowd.
What do you want from me? I've never seen a single Star Wars. I've never seen.
We don't need to hear. We don't need to hear the background information. Let's get back to New Year's resolutions.
If wizards are involved, I'm just not that into it.
It's like the greatest movie villain of all time.
That movie about the Lord and the Rings and that whole thing.
But we're talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, we're not talking about Lord of the Rings.
It's like apple pie and the New York Yankees.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the highest grossing film of all times. But you don't follow the crowd, Dan. Get back to New Year's resolutions. Let's get on it.
Have a strategy. Just have a strategy, and that's what we talk about at the home selling workshops. Okay? The strategy of list it and pray, of throw it on the market, wait around, and here, at the core of the issue, having private viewings of the home. Well, you might say, well, Dan, what are you talking about? That's how real estate's shown. That's how everybody shows real estate. So you put your house on the market, and then somebody wants to see the house at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and, well, you show them the house at 3 o'clock tomorrow. That's following the crowd. Why is that the way real estate should be sold? Just because everyone does it that way. Why is that automatically the best way to do it?
Does Apple do it that way? Does Nordstrom's do it that way?
They don't do it that way.
Do the car dealers do it that way?
And now they're not selling homes, but they're professional, deep-pocketed organizations, businesses that have research teams and every resource you could ever want to establish the perfect and most strategic sales process. And they know how to find the market for a product and then have you there waiting for it as a buyer. By the way, that's why you know somebody that just camped out outside an Apple store for a telephone that's basically the same thing as last year's model with some new little widget in it.
A better camera, Dan.
Yeah, with a better camera. There you go. That's worth a night of my life.
Well, and it syncs with my Apple Watch.
Well, thank God for that. But these companies, your Apples, all of them, even a Target, frankly, for the niche that they're in, for the market segment they're in, they understand how to stage a sales process, how to present a buyer to the product, and then drive demand. promise you that.
Let's not give too much away about these home selling seminars, Dan. Just give them the number. It's going to be all across the county.
That's what you're going to learn to solve. You're going to learn how to solve. If you've ever sold a home and just felt like, wow, I just sold a multi-$100,000 asset, and it kind of seems like, I don't know. It just seems like we showed the home to a few people, and then somebody made an offer, and then we kind of went back and forth, and then I sold the house, and I hope that was the best the market had for me, but I'm not really quite sure because I don't think I even had the market present. I really just had individual people sort of looking at my house all alone, all by themselves, in a total void and vacuum, completely just empty of competition. There must be a better way. That's what we show you. And by the way, that's also what you're going to learn is a process that sold $101.8 million in real estate just in my own little business alone. That's compared to the most agents that'll sell 3.7 homes a year. And so when I say you're going to walk out of the workshops knowing how to sell a home better and more strategically than the average agent that you know out there, I mean it. And the tickets are free. The workshop's about an hour 15 or so minutes.
It depends how many questions you have, and depends how many.
It's quick.
It depends how long Dan goes on.
It's roughly an hour or so. We offer them around the county. We offer them at different times of day, lunchtime or after work. There's going to be one that's convenient to you, and the free line. Okay, the line for free tickets is 800-676-2420. I'm going to repeat that. And one of the things we go into is staging. Why staging? People stage why? Because HGTV told you so?
$1 million listing.
Why do you stage? How do you stage? What do you want to be aware of? And how do you use it to maximize value? And
for the lunchtime ones, Dan, too, I want to add that lunch will be provided at some of the locations. So I mean,
that's exactly right.
So
lunchtime, lunch will be provided. Come out of work, join us. You have a lunch. The number for free tickets is 800-676-2420. And speaking of staging, because you're a Real Estate Exposed listener, we love meeting you. We love being there with you in person. And we're going to, if you call in, when you call in, just tell the person that's booking you for your time and sending your tickets out, share the code LION with them. Just say, I'm sharing the code LION, okay? LION. That will get you qualified to be able to earn a free home staging package. And that's the number. The number is 800-676-2420. Can't wait for the home selling workshops, and can't wait to be back with you next on Real Estate Exposed, Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. And welcome back to our last segment here on Real Estate Exposed. This is News Radio 600 KOGO, Daniel Beer, that's me.
Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank, that's me, and
Joe McShane, Daniel Beer Group.
We're back with you. We have very little amount of time, and so what we're going to jump into here is the workshops. They're coming up. These are the San Diego home selling workshops, and they're back for another round because of their success and the following that it's just been a tremendous ride with them. And the information shared that's actionable that you take with you, it's awesome. And there's a special element to the ones coming up in February that we're adding that hasn't been there for any of the others. And it's about the time of year. It's about how do you, if you're looking at a February sale, a March sale, but you're thinking, because that's what fits, that's what's good for you, but you're also thinking, boy, maybe I actually wait for summer because that's quote unquote the selling season.
Right.
There might be some truth to that, but typically there's actually not, because what you have is more inventory hitting the market, and inventory is supply, and supply is competition to you. And so one of the things we jump into at the workshop is how do you actually run the correct analysis to understand what that absorption rate looks like in that winter quarter for a home like yours, for a property type like the one you own, versus in that summer quarter when you're considering selling, not because the summer's more convenient to you, but because you just think it's the right time.
So when you've been programmed to believe that summer is the time to sell.
And so it's more about it's one of our resolutions. Don't follow the crowd. Don't follow the crowd blindly. If you're going to do something everyone else is doing, at least understand the logic and the numbers and the facts behind it. Make sure it fits your goal, know where you're going, have a plan, and explore your options. And that's a taste of what we will be adding to the workshops this time around, in addition to what should you be fixing in your home and what should you not be? How do you maximize that effort to bring the best and greatest return on your dollar? What kind of home staging tips and techniques should be used? What properties should be staged and which ones shouldn't? It's not that there's no blanket rule, but there's guidance that you can live with that'll maximize that effort and give you the best and biggest return. It really comes down to people that want to sell their home the shortest amount of time at the highest price possible.
They follow your system, Dan. If we follow your system, what's the shortest amount of time we see home? What do you see home sell? I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on my words.
We see a ton of them go. We employ the 5-day our personal 5-day blitz process, which we don't share the detail with anybody outside of the workshops.
Right.
At the workshops, we lay it out so you could take it with you. It's a public service. Joe, you're talking about wanting to give more? At the workshops, that's all we do. We give information. You can take it with you. And the tickets are free, which is the best part. The number, and we'll get you all booked up, February 16th, 17th, 18th, different times, different locations around the county. You only need to attend one. The number's 800-676-2420. There's going to be one convenient to you.
Don't forget to say the word lion when you call in, because we want to get you in the contest for the home staging package as well.
That's right. You want to qualify for that. Use Lion. That's something we're using here for all KOGO listeners. 800-676-2420. The workshops are coming. We're excited to be with you there in person. If there's anything you want us to talk about on the air next week, just look us up on Facebook, Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. It's been great being with you.
I'm Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank, a member of the FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID number 304014. Don't forget Facebook, Real Estate Exposed. See you next week.